So you're rock hounding in Leland or Frankfort or Lake Michigan somewhere or another, and you pick up slag. Yeah, slag is very pretty in some ways, and in other ways it's pretty ugly. It kind of depends on the piece. And for some people it's highly prized. So like for example this piece, I think people would say that's a beautiful piece of blue. And then this is another one that I think looks pretty sharp. All right. You go, okay, what am I going to do with this? Yeah, it's okay for your samples because, I mean, if you are a specimen collector like me, then, okay, check that off the list. You've got that. But if you decide, you know, well, maybe I'd like to make some jewelry out of that or have someone else make some jewelry out of it, then you're going to want to polish it. I've got some blue jays coming in right now to get some peanuts. So how do you polish Leland Blue or Frankfort Green or any of the slag that you might find in the Great Lakes area? I decided to try something. I saw that some people were using little bits of leather in their tumbler to polish slag or other kinds of concordial fracturine type rocks. So I thought, well, I'll give that a try. You know, what I didn't really count on was that there is a lot of dye. Scrap that idea. I found another idea, and I'm gonna experiment with that, and you can come along with me and see if you like this idea.
All right, let's get started. What we're going to do is we are going to use these step 2 bits. Okay. These little pellets, they are for stage 2, which would be the 220 grit. So we're going to use that, and we're going to cushion. The idea is that you're going to cushion the slag as much as you can. All right, throw that all in there. And there you go. A couple of them that didn't want to come out. Please don't polish us. Then we're going to add 2 heaping tablespoons of the grit. This is, by the way, silicon carbide. 220 grit. All right. Then we're going to add sugar. A lot of sugar. And the idea here is that you are going to end up with a syrupy mix so that everything is padded really well. And so, you know, hopefully this will do the trick. And we're going to put in some water, and then we'll be done. And we're going to fill this up to about 4/5. All right. We don't really want a lot of space for those pieces of slag to bounce around on each other. But this is an experiment. I've never done this before. I'm curious about it. I want to see what happens. You know, if it all gets ruined, then so what? You know, there's more where that came from. I don't think we'll ever run out of slag in Lake Michigan. And then there's always Lake Superior too. All right, we'll see what happens. Okay, now it's just a matter of waiting for 7 days. You know, these are the bits of leather that didn't work out. Let's take a look at what is in this tumbler. Now, this ought to be pretty interesting because it's been 220 grit and a whole bunch of sugar and these little beads. So let's just take a look at what we have. So far, I'm liking what I see. That's real pretty. That's real pretty. I will say, I think these things have ground down quite a bit. I'm a little bit surprised at that. So I'm guessing that if I ever decide to do this again, I might not want to tumble them for such a long time, because this one in particular is a lot smaller than what it was before. Some of this looks better and some of it looks worse. This one, I remember, I wasn't even really sure that that was slag glass, but I'm still kind of unsure about that. Interesting, interesting, interesting. And some of the real pretty pieces like this one, which I think would be a pretty good piece of jewelry. I sure don't want to grind it down very much more. Has it been successful? I'm going to wait until I get completely done, but so far I'd say that it accomplished the task of smoothing things out. Some of the stuff was pretty rough. All right, that's the result, and at least right now I'm fairly pleased. Here's a little piece of beach glass that was in there, and it was really more of just like a regular piece of glass, and it looks pretty nice now. The next step is the fine grit. I'll probably only do that for a couple of days, and then on to the polish. Well, this is what's left of the slag glass, and there it is in all of its glassy glory. It actually looks really good. I'm doing this inside because it's blowing like a banshee outside. All right, so what do we do next? We are going to add step 3 spacers. That way there's a little bit of padding in there again. And then we're going to put in a tablespoon of this step 3 fine 600 grit. Okay. And then, because this is such a sweet project, and because one of the ideas is to mix up kind of a slurry so that it will pad. And, hey honey, better get some more sugar. Somehow we're using so much sugar these days. I don't understand it. Yeah, okay, a little bit more. And then we're going to add some water on the tap. Oh, nice and yucky looking. The top goes on. Probably run it for 3 or 4 days and then see what we've got. Tune back in to see if there's anything left. This has been tumbling in the 600 grit and the sugar solution for a period of about 5 days. Let's just see what we've got. We've got a beautiful piece here. That is a beautiful piece of blue, and then that's a nice piece of green. This, unfortunately, looks like it broke in half. So there's one half and there's the other half. Some more green, gray. This was a dark, I guess a black and gray. It's not terrible. I mean, it does kind of look cool. And that almost looks metallic there. So what I'm going to do is, wow, that's pretty. I'm going to give these things a nice bath, and I'm going to let them dry out. And then I'm going to see what my final product is. All right, that's what we've got. This is a big improvement over what it was originally. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's nice. All right, everything is dry now, or at least relatively dry. Some things turned out very nice, as you can see. That, unfortunately, was a casualty, but it's still a size that could be used. The blue is beautiful, the green is beautiful. These other pieces, the gray, I'm not so sure about how great they are. I kind of like this piece though, even though it's not one of the prettier pieces. I do like that little piece of iron that's in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put all these pieces into the tumbler and some polish. First, going to put in these spacers. I'm going to put all this in here. These pieces of glass weren't really anything much to look at, but now that they've been tumbled, they look pretty good. But I don't think they need to be polished. I think they're perfect just the way they are. So off to the side they go. Put the rest of all this in here, and then I'm going to put in half a tablespoon of polish. Right? There's that. And then I'm going to put in a bunch of sugar. And this will pretty much clean us out of the sugar that we have in our house, I think. Sorry, hon, but this pretty much does it for our sugar. There we go. And now we'll put some water in. And we're going to run that for 5 days or so. Now I've only had these pieces of slag in here for a couple of days with the polish, but I'm taking them out because I just don't like the sound. What it sounds to my ears is that these pieces are bumping up against each other too hard. They're just clacking, clacking, clacking. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stuff out, which I got at Lowe's, and I don't think it does a very good job. I think it tends to separate, because it's so light, it separates from the rocks or whatever, and then the rocks are just pounding up against each other and these things are floating. So it seems like that is a mistake or a discovery. Okay, I'll put it that way. So the plan now is to take these pieces, let them dry out, and then I'm going to, well, of course, evaluate them. And then if I think they need more polish, so if they didn't polish up or if they got roughed up too much, I'll go from there. So I'm punting now. Ideally, what I'm going to say is that I hope that they have enough polish, but if they don't, I'm going to put these in with the corn cob mixture and do the polishing that way. And hopefully you're still tuned in. I was walking the beach up in Leland or someplace, and it occurred to me that a lot of the stone that I was finding, they were like in bands, you know, like, so you would find Petoskey stones in a certain sort of region along the beach, and then you'd also find the slag in that same region. If you found Petoskey stones, you also found the slag. And it just so happened there was a guy that walked by at that time. I started talking to him, found out that he was actually professionally a geologist, worked in the petroleum industry, and he said that's because the density is the same. You know, what you have there is things thrown up on the beach that are in sort of bands, and the reason why is because of their weight or their density. So okay, that makes a whole lot of sense then. So if you're finding Petoskey stones in an area where there's also slag, chances are you're also going to find the slag in roughly the same band across the beach or out in the water, depending on where you are. So little factoid for the fact collector, of which I am one. Overall, I am pleased with my results. I think that could be made into some nice jewelry. Those pieces in particular. That one as well. And maybe they need a little bit more polish. If I was going to do that, I would try the corn cobs and the polish and see if I could get a little bit more luster on them. But I think for at least right now, some of these pieces took the polish really well. Others maybe not so much, but I think it was a good experiment. So on to my next project. Thanks for watching.